艾曼纽·贝浩登是一位别具慧眼的画廊家。自21岁成立画廊后的30年，他成功打造了包括村上隆、COS、丹尼尔·阿尔仙等在内的超级明星，不仅持续突破艺术边界，而且迅速将画廊版图扩展至全球。近年来，贝浩登代理的艺术家更是在亚洲市场上大放异彩，屡次创下新高。从瑞士巴塞尔艺术展到法国蓬皮杜美术馆，再到去年贝浩登上海空间举办的经纬万端特别展览，我想你一定或多或少见到过伯纳德·弗瑞兹的作品。这位73岁的法国艺术家，直到近年才在拍卖场上成为关注的焦点，价格飞涨。在2020年富艺斯香港秋拍中，他的作品《War》以214.2万港元的价格成交，打破了艺术家个人最高拍卖纪录。而在随后的2021年6月，富艺斯与保利联合举办的晚间拍卖中，他的作品 Toki 以264.6万港元的价格成交，再次创下新高。那么这位艺术家的作品到底有何特别之处呢？今天带你走进贝浩登位于纽约的超大空间，探秘伯纳德·弗瑞兹个展中的亮点藏品。I would like to introduce you to the expert who will be giving us the artwork today. Mrs. Catherine Wisnowski, Associate Director at Perrotin, New York.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much for joining us at the gallery for this special exhibition by French abstract painter Bernard Frize. Bernard started painting in the 70s, and he had a bit of a crisis when he started painting because all abstraction that was being made at the time in Paris kind of looked the same to him. It was very monochromatic, very boring. And so he took about almost a decade break from painting, and it wasn't until 1977 that he really started honing what you see in front of us right now, which I'm going to talk a little bit more about in just one second. The way that Bernard begins a painting or a series of paintings is that he begins with a set of rules, a set of precise constraints, or a set of sequences. So these rules can mean many, many things. It can mean where you cross the brushes. It can mean the size of brushes. It can mean whether or not they go vertically or horizontally. But essentially, they control the flow of the painting. And then what's left over from that is essentially the chaos. And that's where the beauty really emerges. Because for example, so you can see in this painting, which is the largest painting in the exhibition, the interesting part is these little places of error that are created as a result of the rules or as a result of the mistake in the rules. So you get these poolings of color and black and like bits of redirection where the paint tries to overlap one another. And that's really where you find what I think is truly sublime about Bernard's work.
Absolutely. I think his works are immediate at first sight. But if you spend more time with the painting, you will discover more. For example, as you mentioned, the very interesting relationship between chaos and harmony, creation and destruction, rules and randomness.
Exactly. He wants to override subjectivity. This is about almost an ego death for him. And that ego death is kind of represented in the fact that he refuses to choose a color. So for him, the absence of color is all color. And you can see that in these works. And what he actually does is he applies the paint into a wet resin. And if you come really closely onto this painting, he applies it flat on the ground. So it allows all the colors to seep into one another. And then the resin, the way that it dries, and Bernard doesn't even know this when he's making it. It's only until afterwards that he sees what the painting will even look like. So he is as distant from the act of creation as possible. And it creates, the resin, this very flat surface. So it kind of stills all of this chaos and all of this movement under this kind of pristine surface. And This is one of my favorites. So this is made with very long brushes that are done vertically across the canvas. And then what he'll do is he'll take a liquid, and in the resin, it begins to just naturally pool. You can really see the sequence and repetition in every one. They're all made exactly the same, and yet not a single one looks alike. So they are all created with the same rules, the same brushes, the same colors, and yet they could not be more different. And in that way, Bernard's practice really echoes kind of this active universal creation, which is the motions are all the same, yet these chance encounters are what creates the final surface.
And I remember the artist wrote something like this over a decade ago. He said, a painting is an object hung on the wall, waiting for people to come and to activate it. And the enjoyment of painting is addressed to the senses as well as to the intelligence. If a painting can be looked at several times, they affords a great deal of pleasure. And exactly. I think this idea still rings true in his works today. And I hope you can feel this sense of pleasure in our artwork today. Thank you, Katie, and thanks for sharing your insight.
Thank you so much for visiting us. We're so happy to have you.
如果你想要了解更多精选藏品和购藏指引，可以在视频下方找到我们的联系方式。如果你喜欢今天的视频，别忘了点赞、收藏、评论、转发。我们下期见啦！